said something that blessed my life last night, and I want you to further expound on it. And then this is how I want this to go. After you say what you say, I want Vaughn to talk about it, and then I want to shift it back over to Pastor Harmon. And basically, I want you to go like this: boom, 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 boom. See how that works? So I don't got to do a whole bunch of talking. Huh? He the end. He gonna end it up, cause he doesn't like to have so much conversation. But the reason why I'm doing this is because I want you to see the facial expressions of all these people when they get finished talking, or the facial expression of the person next to them before they have to talk, because you're gonna see a burning desire. Oh, I need to say something right here. All right. You said something that was amazing yesterday. You said, I am tired of musicians treating us like pimps, and we treating musicians like prostitutes. Can you further expound on that? Thank you.
First of all, certainly we thank God today. The people that need to hear this, not here, that's the travesty about this form, this part. Those that need to be here. Those that are here are pretty much faithful in what they do. But why I made that statement is because it seems like I'm in the middle, and I'm just going to share my testimony. I understand the musician industry side, but I also understand the pastorate side. I understand that labor is worthy of his hire. I understand muzzle not the ox. All that Bible stuff I understand. But pastors are wrong for getting musicians to come play for them under the pretense of what you cannot do. I should not tell, and I like to use names. I should not tell Justin that I want you to come play for my church and I can give you what you asked for. I should not overextend myself for a season. And then, yes, sir, after a month, have a meeting with you and say, we can no longer do that. And expect you to just, I just throw numbers out. I should not tell someone I can afford to give you $400 a week when I know I can't. And what happens is a musician will come to a church under the understanding of what the musician has with the pastor or with the executive board or what have you, but then you shift after a week or 3 weeks, and that's not fair to that musician, especially when they have responsibilities in their own personal life, number one. Number two, it's not right for a musician to pimp the church. And what I mean by pimp the church is if you just learning how to play the keyboard, if you transposing, if you're not proficient, if you're not a Troy, if you're not a Junior League, if you're not if you gotta do to find the preacher. Yeah, you ought not demand nothing. Yeah, I'm not, you ought not demand nothing. But then to tell the pastor, I need $350, I need $400, and I'm gonna go out on a limb. Troy Jr. gonna probably cut me all up, but it's all right. I'm ready for it today. It's not right for a musician to take half of what a church brings in. That's not cool. Get to a church where you can grow with the ministry. Well, there has to be a balance. Now, Troy blessed me last night. I think he wanted to minister to me in my office, but there were too many people around. I would have received it from him. I probably would have been laid out prostrate. He said, what'd you call me, bitter or angry, or which one did you say? I have a disdain right now for musicians. Not all musicians, but those that don't want greater, those that don't want better. And you want to preach, my gift will make room for me. You want to preach, I want to be this great producer. I want to be this great person. But you don't, number one, study your craft. You don't tithe. You don't come to the training institutions of the church. So you pimp the church. You come for praise and worship. You come for the first period of exhortation. Then you leave. What if God gave me to shift? What if God gave Pastor Harmon to shift in the service? Now you're outside chilling or you're texting. So it's like, y'all getting y'all. When I say y'all, keep in mind I said in the beginning, those that need to hear this ain't here. So when I say y'all, I'm talking about the general consensus of musicians. I'm not talking about.
You don't have to apologize for anything you're saying. We're being brutally honest. That was the rule.
Thank you. Y'all get in y'all circles and say the churches don't pay, the churches don't do this, all pastors are tricky, all pastors are this. Some of them are. But some musicians are tricky too. Now, if I'm going to pay you what you asked for, I ought to be able to pay you to play and keep your zipper up. I'm just saying. Well, I'm gonna pass it off the phone. But I think you got the gist of my answer. Prime example, we recording.
Listen,
I don't care.
I need you to
My
be brutally
musicians
honest.
are not here. So except the Lord said the same on tomorrow morning, I'm be preaching without music. Because I'm different from just about every other pastor in Delaware. I started 8 years ago in a hotel across the highway with no music. So for the first 5 years, I had no music. And I told Troy last night, the Lord said to me, set it all up like I got it. So now psychologically, I got to preach on Sunday. Now, I'm not like Troy. I wish I could be like him and just stand and expound and not get emotional. But that third generation Kojic in me raises up. And I go to Hoopville. And I had to pull it, hooping, looking at a Hammond and looking at a motif and some drums like, this don't make no sense. So it's like now I get musicians. And the flip side of that, some don't know, I'm in the gospel music industry. So I have relationship with named people that have said, any musician you get, I'll help them, I'll mentor them, I'll tutor them. Whatever tools I have, because we have covenant. The covenant that I have with you, pastor, the blessing will go down to the musician. And they won't even pick up the phone to call a JB, a J, a Amro, a Junior, or whoever. So I have a problem. I have a problem that you ask for a raise. I have a problem that when you get speeding tickets. I have a problem when you need money for milk for your baby. I have a problem. But then I ask you to come to a Friday night special service, you can't come. So we have to find the balance in this. Now, I'm not like a lot of pastors. I'm different. I like music because it accents the service and the demographic of members that I have. Some need it, some don't. But what I will not do is do like a lot of pastors in this area. I'm not changing my service time to accommodate musicians. Because they doing that now. I mean, I'm just following your lead today. They doing that now. And what has happened, and what has happened is, and I mean, he said shots fired, but it really wasn't. What has happened is we're giving too much power to musicians. That's what has happened. When you as a pastor will change your service time, when you as a pastor will accommodate in ways that traditionally we as pastors never did. Now we have given control to the musician. And I don't mind giving control to somebody that's skilled. But you a sorry pastor if you're going to give control to somebody that just really learned how to play 6 months ago. I'm sorry. Go ahead. You.
Yes, please. The great Bishop Carlos D. Cannon said last night he's tired of musicians being treated like prostitutes and pastors and churches treated like pimps. Can you please further expound on that? I think you're excellent at this because we had many conversations when I worked for you. So I think you have a lot to say about this. That's why you're on the panel. Bless your heart.
God bless you, Pastor Gilder. Protocol has already been established. Amen. Not going to trouble your hearts. Well, that's a lot I could say. I am a different type of musician now. I used to do 4 services on Sunday. 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12:15. And sometimes at 6. So that's 5. And them 2. Now when you add up 600, 500, 600, that's a lot of money on one day. And still, for some reason, ended up broke. Like I didn't have enough money. Now, and worked a full-time job. What I have learned over the years is that musicians, for some reason now, it's very important in the church. Don't take me wrong when I'm saying that. Their position is very important in the church. But pastors have allowed us to sort of run their church almost. And I have always tried to study out, when did this shift actually take place? When did this shift take place from me getting that brown envelope after church that was fat with $51 bills in it to when did this, okay, you know the answer? No, keep talking. Okay. When did this shift take place to the pastor calling me up and saying, what compensation are you looking for your services? I can't remember when the shift happened, but it just all of a sudden happened. And never once did they say, are you saved? Are you living right? Are you married? Do you got a girlfriend? Do you got a boyfriend? Whatever it is. They never once asked me that. So what happened was they put the compensation in my hand. So when somebody asked me, what am I worth? It's the same when I go to jobs and interview, when I used to not be an employer. Some of the people that interviewed me, I'm going to, interviewing for Fortune 500 companies. Mr. Combs, what kind of salary are you looking for? I need a base salary of $100,000. Minimum. Well, you ain't going to get, really, $100,000? Yes, well, I checked the statistics. Your reports last year, you did $60 billion. So you want me to make you $120 billion, but you don't want to pay me $100,000. That doesn't add up on the papers. So it's the same sense with the church. The church, what do you want on Sunday? Well, can I get 800? No. Can I get 7? Can I get 6? It's a bidding war, but never have they even asked about my lifestyle. How am I living? What do I want out of the church? And that used to be how it was every Sunday. Just give me the check. I didn't care for the services. Half of them were boring. Some of them had nice women in them that liked us as musicians. A lot of them did. That liked us, especially if you don't be able to play and then be able to teach and then be able to write. And then if you can preach, you in bad shape. Don't even add that one to the category. You in bad shape. But now that I'm older, I don't care about money. Does not mean anything at all to me. Churches calling me up, how much you want me to pay you? Give me whatever you want. Because I understand that my supplier is not the church. It ain't the check. Because look at people, MC Hammer, Allen Iverson. These people had Mike Tyson. They had millions of dollars and ended up what? Broke. Allen Iverson can't wait until he hits, I think it's 55, when he's going to have access to like 20-some million. But right now, he's broke. So money is never the key to becoming powerful. It's God is the key. So now I have changed my thinking. I just help churches. Now, I ain't dumb. You ain't going to have me drive all the way to New Jersey. I get there, it's 1,000 people there. You take an hour taking up an offering. I count you done raise 10,000. You're going to give me $25 for some gas money. I didn't say I was dumb. Musicians shouldn't be dumb in this age. But I think that church has got crazy and wacky, and sin has crept in because we put so many. Pastor John P. Key came to Milford a few years ago, and he said something there that stuck with me till this day. He said, my office kept calling back and forth to the church, asking about the sound, the mics, build the stage for the. He said, we just gone too far. He said this himself. We can't just show up and sing. And something happened that night. How many was at that concert when it was in Milford? The system messed up right before John P. Key came on. Taking a long time to come out. The subs went all the way out. No subs at all. So when John P. Key came on, it sounded a mess. It was just tops, no bottoms. And he said, he told his office, he said, we don't care what kind of sound they got. We're just going to come. And I think it's time now that the musicians, we lose our egos. As players, we feel that, if I could play like Troy, if I could just do that, I'd be, oh, man, I'm somebody. And the truth of the matter is a lot of pastors put us up based off of our gift and our ability and not based off of our lifestyle. So I think that the reason a lot of this mess happens is because we need to go back to the old way. Don't focus so much on, Pastor Cannon, he had all these nice instruments here. He could have just easily said, I'll cut somebody a check, and somebody would have came in here and played in a heartbeat. But I think just sometimes waiting on God to send the right person to your church to play changes up the atmosphere, and it keeps a lot of issues down. That's my standpoint from where I am.
Do you need me to repeat the question? You sure? You need some juice?
I was just thinking while everybody was talking, and the thing that sticks out to me is, let's look at Pimps and Hoes relationship. The relationship is basically you have this person expected to take care of you while you get controlled. And after they're told, you have the control, the pimp's response to everything is, but you chose me. So it still keeps them in control until they cannot have, a relationship that's that both of them can coexist in. That's basically witchcraft. And what has happened is our churches have adopted our relationships as witchcraft. If the pastor's not in control, then the musician's in control. And whoever wins that war in between the two of the people that are looked at or revered as somebody who makes the service happen, that's who has the control. I've been very fortunate to have good musicians come to my church and be a blessing to the ministry. I've been very fortunate. I was fortunate to have Demia when he was alive. And he started off at the church. And after he passed, then Emire came. And the good thing about Emire was the fact that when he had to work sometimes, he would make sure that he recommended a musician to be there that could carry out the assignment in his absence. So he still was working even when he wasn't even present to make sure that everything was covered. And God always made a way in that capacity. But the thing that drives ministries really, really crazy is the fact that when you have a musician who wants to have the control of the whole church and the whole responsibility of making sure that they feel like they can't be replaced, or they can't you can't do without them, or however it happens. I mean, it even happens with praise and worship leaders. They think that they're the end all to be all, that the church won't move without my anointing, which causes problems, because you got to understand that if your ministry is going to work, you have to work it together. As a pastor, it's not just my church, but it's everybody's church. I'm the leader of that ministry. Therefore, the responsibility starts and ends with me. However, you still have to have people who work the vision. And musicians are a part of that. The responsibility has to fall on those who lead into a higher place of worship. One of the things that causes us to have so much friction is because normally the musician and the pastor don't have a relationship, in the same way that they don't have a relationship with God either. They treat the church like they treat God. One of the things that Elder Troy said about the Levites was that they had worship 24 hours around the clock. That's what you said. So that means that there was never a time that wasn't occupied by worship. And if you're going to be a true Levite, you need to pray without ceasing. You need to be able to be in his presence without ceasing. When you're driving in your car, just like he said earlier, he was driving in his car and he had conversations with God. Go to the mall, conversations with God. The problem now is we've taken out the intimacy with God, which also takes out the intimacy with your leader, and has made us enemies opposed to being on the same team. When we should be embracing each other and praying for each other. And it goes both ways. There are pastors who don't pray for their musicians. There are pastors who don't embrace their musicians like they need to. They got issues on the organ and on the drums and on the guitar. They never had a father. They never had a mother. They never had anybody who loved them like they needed to love them. And you're repeating the same cycle in their life, when we really should be successful together and with the same mentality and strive towards the same goals. And we missed it. We missed it. We missed it because we're too self-absorbed. We've become islands on our own selves. I can't make this work by myself. If that was the case, then you don't need workers in ministry. I don't need members. I need workers. I need people who have the mind to work, the people who have the mind to promote ministry and to promote each other. When you become a pimp as a pastor, all you seek is control. And when you become a prostitute on the organ, I call them organ whores. Whoever is the highest number, whatever gives the most money, you become an organ whore. I had a young man. I was telling somebody the other day, I had a young man who, when I was in Philadelphia, building ministry there, and I had a young man who came to my church, and he played for me for $100 a week. $100 a week. Now, I'll tell you what I got with that $100 a week. He brought himself, a bass player, and a drummer. Every single week for $100. Came, played. Now, what I want to let you know about that, now, when I said that, you're probably thinking, oh, this young man was probably average. Well, when he stopped playing for me, he went to the Grammys and was playing for Pharrell. Just to give you an understanding of his level of understanding of how to play. He texted me about maybe 3 months ago, and he said, I thank you for giving me the opportunity to play at your church. He said, because you showed me how not to go jump for the highest dollar. He said, but the substance in which you taught me built me so that I can be in the place that I am and not be infiltrated by the hunger for money. $100 a week. What I want to let some of you musicians know is, if you stop being so greedy and stop being so one-track minded towards just money, you might really be saved. You might really get saved, because you'll be somewhere where you're not rich, but you got substance. And God will give you more than money. He will make you something you've never been before. And then the money will follow. He says, seek me first. If you seek him first, everything else you need. And this even goes for preachers too. Some preachers ain't saved no bit more than a man in the moon. But if we stop making it about stuff and things and build strong relationships, the church is styled as the family. We're not family anymore. We're strangers that meet each other every now and then. Then we won't become pimps, and then we won't be whores. We'll be what God has called us to be, and that's to be your brother's keeper without any type of ego. Amen? I'm done.
Now unto him who is able to keep us from falling and to present us faultless before the presence of his glory. I think we could go. I'm listening to everything that's going on, and one thing that I looked at, and my perspective comes from being a PK, coming up, being a musician, growing up with an opportunity for growth in a new church after being in a larger church, and just being excited about my craft, which is a whole nother topic, because the musicians that I encounter a lot now are excited about flash. They're excited about the lights. They're excited about being on YouTube. They're excited about playing for mainstream artists, but they're not as excited as about developing their gift. And that's just a weird place for me, because even when I didn't know God as well as I'm learning him now, I was excited about my gift, at least, and I feel like that was a simplistic place, and I told you a little bit last night. I was the guy that was after church going to the music section, or since my dad had to, make phone calls and do things, and he was staying at the church, my mom was leaving, I was sure enough asking my dad, could I ride with him? Because that meant he was going to be back there on the phone for another 2 hours, and I'll be sitting there playing around with this organ or whatever, figuring stuff out while he's back there, kept myself occupied. But it seems like the generation has changed, and it's just like, I want to make it big, or I want to make this stage. I want to make this name for myself. But I come from these areas, having been in larger places, handled budgets that were $500,000 for a music department, handling different things, pastoring a music department, even going to a transition of ministry, and even going back to a place where God says, walk away from what's large and go back to this place that doesn't look like what I'm about to do for you. And I've been there, and that's been a journey. Of course, it's all tied, and it's strengthened my faith. It's challenged my faith. It's challenged me so much, because I've been taught to not believe what I see, what I hear from other people. What I hear from other people, this can't be done, that, yada, yada. It's taught me a lot. But in one thing that I've done, I've actually looked, if you ever want to really get back to God's intent, then you want to look for how it first started. And a lot of times we'll read and talk about musicianship and everything from from Old Testament, talking about the Levites, but we got to come to grips with the fact that the Levitical structure and the temple order is not what was set up for the new church. So if we really look at this completely, we might all be out of jobs if we look at the construct of the church the birth of the church. When you look in Acts and you look at the way the church was designed, you have the sermons, and you have the experience that was birthed out of Pentecost. Pentecost was not the thing that happened. It was a festival that was going on, and it happened to be the time frame in which God did the miracle he did. And while sometimes, and I hope this doesn't step on doctrinal issues or whatever, while people focus so much on the tongues, the crazy miracle is the fact that 120 people were talking, and they were all nationalities outside, and they were hearing the works of God in their own language. So how are all these people talking? If we all talk at the same time, I can't tell you I can decipher the conversation that's in the back, but you're hearing about the gospel in your language, in your native tongue. You know, and there was something that went on that I believe got shut off when Adam ate the fruit. There was a death that happened immediately, but I believe that there was a reawakening. That same breath that God blew in Adam was the same breath that I think that they heard when there was a sound like a rushing mighty wind that came through that house. And you see this connection now to God again. You see now the authority being birthed in a church. The church was a community. And because the church was a community, they shared alike. And I know we're not going to a situation where everybody's going to give up their paycheck, bring it in here, and then we're going to evenly distribute. You know, all of y'all would leave out here saying y'all crazy. You know, I work for this. This is what I set up. I got a different work ethic than this one next to me. I'm not giving my check, and I know this person be late to work and all that. I understand that. But the church, when it first started out, because of the dynamics of where they were, they shared everything alike. The thing that we can pull from them, the principle, is they were a family. The church was actually the people. We now use church as a word when we say having church, which means shouting, dancing, turning up. We call that having church, or we call the church the established building that we do. And what's happened in this time with everything, and I agree with everything that's been said, when we do that, we've actually lost focus of what the original church was. So now church is a gimmick. I feel like church now is almost the new Industry 500 business. And if you can get your business off the ground, if you can make it exciting enough that people want to jump, no matter where they jump from, whether they come from Joe's church down the street or Susie's church, if they come to yours because yours is now the most exciting thing happening, then you got it. You got the money now, and now everything is driven towards what's going to pull in the money. Even for preachers, you got mainline preachers that have TV ministries that are well known, and they are, when I tell you, they're not even raping you, they're molesting people. They get you excited, they get you worn out, and then they say, all right, now we're about to sow into this word. And you all worn out, they done wore you out, they done tickled you, touch you in the right spot, you hitting the wall, you up under the chair, and now they're like, yo, get your wallet out and let's put it on the nightstand. And everybody does it because you're emotionally high. I've told you things that's going to make you feel good. I'm told you that this is the year that's going to be increased for you. The stuff that was jacked up in last year, God's going to turn it around. He's going to do some things that's going to make your neighbors hate on you. And I'll say the right things, and before I know it, these tables are upside down. And I'm going to say, how many of you going to sow into this word? It's a big corporation business. So in order to keep the business right, I got to have my front right. I got to have my stage right. So now I need a musician that's not, I don't care about salvation. I don't care about how the musician's living. I don't care about his sexual preference. I don't care about what he wants in life. All I care about is, can you produce the goods? And when I do that, I get somebody that can kill this. And whatever he comes with, we'll deal with that when it comes, because all I know is when they get on, we turn up. And that's how the whole mentality is. Now, as far as this war between the pimping, the money, and all that, where the fight comes is because church has lost its main focus. Now we got to fight over money because now the spirit in church, or what we call church, is greed. Now this is about who is going to get, who sits on the empire. You know, everybody's putting kingdom on the name of their church, but I don't know too many churches that are actually promoting God's kingdom. You understand what I'm saying? You know, you're not really following the decrees of the king. You're not really changing the way. Anything that's kingdom Even Miles taught us before he left, yo, like everything is in juncture to what the decrees of that king is, what his habits are, what their stature is. Everything conforms to that. But we now build this thing where it's just like, yo, stick with me and I'm going to take you somewhere. That's not follow me as I follow Christ. That's a little different. I'm going to set you up. I'm going to do this for you. And, when I grew up, whether we were abused or not, the thing was we were taught about being a Christian first, about being holy first. And I even looked at this and realized that when Paul talks to us, and we're now in this period where we talk about grace, and I love it because grace tells us God has given you the space to change, and he's loved you enough to love you past your foolishness. I love it because I had a lot of foolishness. I won't tell you about it. All right, so what I'll tell you, the issue is, what we don't realize is that grace message is preached. When you look at Paul's letters even, they're preached to a younger church. They're preached to baby churches being birthed. They're preached to a church that has not been formed for a while, even when they're doing good, and he's reaffirming things. You look at Ephesians, you look at Romans, and you look at how the gospel is spelled out. And he's laying it down. But when you look at Peter, and you look at how that book writes, it's where we get how the old saints dealt with holiness or hell. Peter's kind of saying, all right, don't get this twisted. There should be some fruit to this. When you look at James, faith without works is dead. You see them talking a little bit more sternly. I got kids, and you're not going to slap a baby upside his head because it's screaming. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't even have the language. It doesn't have certain abilities, so there's more of a nurture. But you best believe my children at 13, 11, and 9 now, certain things they do got consequences. Because I expect more out of them. They're older. But we've got into this place where we've lost that focus of what church is, and it's created this relationship of, let me see what I can do. Also, I was focusing, Pastor, when you first talked, and one of the things that has been an issue with musicians is not that you need to tell them all your business, but musicians don't even know what churches go through. Like, pastors aren't even honest because there's so many pastors that have burnt musicians, and you get people that come to you after they've been burnt by 5 people, and they come to you like, you're not pimping me. I'm going to get you before you get me. So, and you're the good one. It's almost like that girl that's been beat up in so many relationships. By the time she gets to Mr. Right, she's dumping on him. And she doesn't realize she's dumping on the best thing that's walked into her life. You know what I mean? So somebody comes in, and they're just like, this is what I need, whatever, blah, blah, blah. This is what my standard is. I can't do anything less than this. And they have this preconceived notion, and they don't understand, you're asking me for 60% of what we pull in right now. We just started. You're asking for, we can't do that. My thing that I realize is when God sets up ministry, he makes the provision for it. One thing that Bishop blessed me with in the office, and I hear everything. It runs back, whether you think I'm listening or not. When he started, even with all of his industry connections, he started without a musician. Brought equipment, was told to bring it in, and was bringing it in for nobody. Still looking over, nobody sitting over there. And what I know about God is God uses things that makes no sense to us to actually prove his point. Any story you would ever look at, he always goes the opposite of the grain. So here it is, God would take Bishop Cannon and start a ministry, not because Cannon went around to 5 churches and said, hey, I need 10 of my friends from here. I need 5 from here. I need this musician from here. Y'all got 2 keyboardists. You come with me, and stick with me. I'm going to help you out. Like, that did not happen. But because this ministry was of God, you find a birthing where you didn't have what you need, and God still grew the church. Music is, I believe that music is great in ministry, but anytime you think that ministry strives off of you, God will show you, I can show you something different than you think. I knew churches that didn't have musicians for years, and they almost grew to mega status. They were using CDs, singing praise and worship. And when the track stopped, the song was over. And they would still rejoice. When they wanted to shout, they was putting on Mashunda or whatever Hezekiah had on his album, and they was going into a track. You understand what I'm saying? And they were having full-blown church, getting word, getting revelation. And it was just like, God was doing what he needed to do. Just understand, we got to get to the point to understand that none of these positions are above another. A leader is not higher than the people they lead. They're just further ahead. It's a difference of perspective. It's not a hierarchy. It's not a pyramid scheme. And a lot of our churches are built like pyramid schemes. You got to turn a pyramid upside down. He's the greatest among you. Let them serve the rest. You are leading because you are saying, God's put in me the capacity to help pull this along. I'll give you a small example. A prayer warrior is not a prayer warrior because nobody else has to pray. All God's children are required to pray to him, right? That's communication. But a prayer warrior has a greater desire, a greater lean in them to do it. So even what they do, they can do in more. They can hold out longer than you can. They can go in deeper than you can. But it's great basically to help pull you along the process. You understand? So it's just a whole thing where I believe that we will actually lose this mentality when we figure out what the church really is, or that the church is the body. It's not this stuff that we play in every week. It's not this little thing we set up or whatever. It's actually a body. It's a breathing body that is united to Christ. Even as ministry is changing for me, I've been praying for God to blow on my stuff outside. I don't even want to work through church anymore. I don't. And it's not because I'm hurt. I want to be able to speak from God's platform with the strength to say, you did not put me here. You don't sustain. And I can say it now, even with working, my church can't take care of what I got. My church can't take care of what God did for me. But I understand who's my source. So it puts me in a place, you can fire me tomorrow. I've been fired before for not bowing down the bell. I've been fired. Like, yo, pick up your check today. Now you got 2 weeks. Now you got a month. Pick up your check, and I'll catch you later. Sat at home, sat in another service. Troy Chambers sat in somebody else's service and enjoyed worship for like 2 weeks. And I tell you, it was the freest thing I ever felt in my life. It was the freest thing I ever felt in my life. And there was a part of me that was nervous at first because it was just like I didn't know where everything was coming from. But I love being able to go back to God's word and see Abraham have the same issues, to see Joseph get shown a dream, and that everything in his life happened opposite of the dream that he was given. But he still got to where the dream was. God just works like that. So I'm learning to trust him. We gotta take these things and put ourselves in perspective order. Amen.
Junior, need me to need me to?
No, amen.
That's all you got. Well, with that, are there any questions from our audience?
I still could say something.
Yeah. Yo, you got me. You definitely got me. Because that's Junior all day. Amen.
You got a question, though, before I say anything? By hearing about the pimps and the hoes, I don't want to be a thought. I don't want to be a thought. Thank God I can only speak as a musician because I'm not no preacher or deacon or pastor, whatever. I'm not one of those. I can only talk to you as, I could talk to the musicians as a musician only. With me, I'm not sure if anybody had this feeling before. With me, right now, my wife don't work at all. She can. I told her you can, but you don't have to because I believe it's my job to take care. And yeah, that's great. But anyway, it's in the beginning it was rough because depending on churches, it's crazy. It's depending on church. It's just certain pastors or certain churches. I'm just say really, Sussex County is horrible. See, I don't work well now. I do, but I have a good report for Kent though. For my situation, it's a good report. But like far as Sussex County, it's bad. It's bad for musicians, and maybe that's why I can't speak for the world, but I can speak for Sussex County. That's why the musicians act the way they act. Maybe the older ones, the younger ones is doing it because they see the, what I mean, it's out there, like it's online. It's not even just here; it's online that I get paid this over here. You know what I mean? I get paid this. You only get paid what over? Oh, yo, you need to come over here because you know what I mean. It's stuff like that. Let me go back. I'm a full-time musician. This is what I do. I play in church. This is what I do. I tried a 9 to 5, and God knows I want it because I hate dealing with church. I hate it. I hated it. But I never forget that to me it was a good job. I was working at CP Diver. Just bought me a car. Everything was cool. I was good. It worked 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, weekends off. I was good with those, those kind of jobs. Those are amazing. One day, I kept feeling it through the year that, I need to come off this job. And I hear about preachers talk about that all the time because they called to do something. But I was, God was on me about, like, leaving this job. Like, and one day I woke up, my my heart was pounding. Like, I was going to die if I go to work. Like, I was like, I cannot not go to work. I got a car payment. Insurance is no joke. When you buy a new car, insurance is higher than the car. It's crazy. So I struggled hard with that. But I know God, this is where God has placed me. He placed me here. This is what he wanted me to do. And I know I'm not telling y'all not to get a job. I mean, you got to listen to God. The only way you can hear God if you have a relationship. That's the only way. The only way you can hear him. That's me. And I know, and now I know it was God because, like I said, I'm married, yo. I got a place. I got 3 cars. You know what I mean? And I'm sustained, and now I don't work as hard as I used to. Back I used to church, Booker. I used to church hard. Them cats had you churching. Good God Almighty. Good. Well, I miss it too, but I used to church. But anyway, I mean, even do that, I have some other revenues, coming in, and I suggest y'all seriously as young cats, y'all have other, yeah, definitely, but y'all have other talents. Y'all don't just have music. You're just not a musician. I mean, God gave you some other stuff, so, I mean, whatever it is, whatever you like to do, is money to actually be made. But God gave y'all different talents, you know what I mean? Other talents than just playing music. And if God didn't call you off the job or, use that talent, because God knows people that, I was one of them, I hated going to work. I hate doing something I don't like. That's the worst feeling in the world, to go to work. I know you got to do what you got to do, but to do something that you hate doing, that's a struggle getting up. I don't care how much money you're making. Yo, it's a struggle getting up to doing that. And I used to do construction and make big money, but yo, I hated it. I hated it. So thank God I could do something that I love, you know what I mean, rather it be studio work, live stuff. I'm opening up like doing some software stuff, doing some computer stuff. I have different revenues. Thank God for that. But I mean, in order not to be a thought, I'm telling you, I mean, the same way the pastors do research on you, because right now they researching, they looking y'all up on social media now, because everybody put themselves out on social media. They researching y'all now, so it's gonna be kind of harder to get something now, because they researching y'all. Do your research too. You know what I mean? So you won't have to be a victim. There's more to be said, but I can only give you me.
Amen.
But yeah, other streams, yo.
Real quick for you, ask the next question.
Oh, go ahead.
I think one of the things that we're missing, and he kind of alluded to it, and it happened to me as a preacher. I preached one time, Pastor Harmon, and I thought I was preaching. I thought I was doing something. Tell him what Elder Bradley said to me after I got finished preaching.
At my granddad's church?
Yeah.
Oh, he said, Cannon, you got potential to be a good preacher. He slayed. It was like right after convocation, so everybody on this high. He said, Cannon, you have potential to be a great preacher, but you need to get rid of them likes and ums, because this is making you sound trifling.
It was one of the older pastors. He was like 70-something years old at the time. I thought I was pulling it, and he shut me right down. And it stuck with me. Mentorship. The older teach the younger. Like you said, it's on the internet. Everybody know what everybody getting paid nowadays. And I want to use Kent, Sussex, and the Eastern Shore and paint a picture real quick, and then we can move. You take the people like the Brandons, you take the people like the JBs, you take the people like the Jays, the Amaral, well, not Amaral because he's still in Salisbury, but those musicians, just like those that are in this room that never had any formal training, and the Justins, because he's over in Baltimore now, and relied on the oil of God on their life. God blessed them. They left from here, and they went up the road, and they got nice money where they're well-to-do. It's not right for you to think you just been playing about 6 months to a year to demand what they're getting. Now, on the flip side, it's not right coming from a pastor telling you that. They ought to tell you that.
Yeah, that's true.
And the problem that I have, the musicians are not here to sit at y'all's feet to hear it. Emar will do it because he don't care. Yeah. But the Junior Lees, the Vaughns, when you get that opportunity to tell them what you're doing ain't right, if they really look up to you, do it. Because what's happening is everything that Junior Lee, and I'm using him because he's here, everything that Vaughn has done, I'm using him because he's here, they've worked to get. They have wives. They have children. So God has enlarged their territory. But it took years to get. So it's not right to have a little knucklehead fly by night that's 17 years old to even stick his chest out. Matter of fact, where I come from, when it was older preachers preaching, you a young renegade, you ain't even talk. You was just, am I right about it? You was just happy to be in the conversation.
Yes, sir.
Let me listen to what the old heads are saying.
Yeah.
I remember one time I was in a conversation, I was in a car. It was Bishop Patterson, it was Bishop Blackshear, and it was Bishop Sheard. I was in Memphis. I was driving to the convocation, and I interjected in the conversation. Bishop grabbed my leg and said, "We don't talk now, son." And you know what I said? Yes, sir. It kept right on driving the car. But now what happens is young musicians come and they see Troy and they see Junior and they're like, "Hey, what's up, man? Like y'all on the same level." You're not like the commercial. That's not how this works. That's not how this works. So what happens is those that are from this area that God has blessed, that they get respect everywhere else. When they come to mentor, they need to demand the respect from home as well. I'm done.
I also want to add, I usually, real quick, I know you want something too.
Go ahead, yo. Go ahead.
I usually always tell the cats, like the young cats I run into, man, know your worth. Like, because cats, they always want the big money. I'm like, yo, make yourself worth something. You got to make yourself worth something. Make yourself, if you want a 500 a week, yo, getting 500 a week in this damn time, like that's empty status. You got to learn programming. You got to learn programming. You got to actually know how to lead. You have to have leadership skills. You know what I mean? You got to learn how to make you got to make a sorry band sound like they're not sorry.
You got to do the Michael Jordan.
You know what I mean?
Now, on the flip side of what he's saying, because I'm a pastor, one thing about me, I'm going to keep it straight down the middle. He's supposed to tell you that, know your worth. And if you ain't worth 500, you ought not get 500. But you have some pastors that will pay you $500 until they can't pay you no more. We as pastors need to be held accountable as well. We want to come down on the musicians, but we as pastors need to have so many pastors, like he said, in the Sussex County area should have been here to know what musicians go through and what they deal with. Because it's not right for me to tell a musician, if I know in my budget I can't afford 5, I shouldn't tell you 5 just to get you. Then expect you to change what you worth once you hear. Because then they'll blast you on Facebook.
Truth. But, just I want to interject right here. Many of you know I didn't start getting paid really until I was in like my mid-20s, and I'm only 29. And I ain't saying I'm a great musician, but I'm one of the faithfulest musicians around here. Like, to wherever I'm at, I'm there, and money couldn't move me. Because I remember one time I was playing for a preacher, and I was still working for Vaughn, and the preacher came into the place, and I couldn't stand this dude. I just ain't like him. Pastor Harmon know too, and I was just like, yo, I'm about to quit. I'm about to get my $600 check, and I'm quitting. He paid me like a $600 check on a Monday. I quit on a Friday, and I couldn't understand why I was just feeling this way. And then I had no. This is a testimony. I had no reason. Well, God was pushing me to somewhere different in my life because my lifestyle wasn't matching up to what I was trying to do. And I was having this war going on inside of me. And this is the war that most musicians have inside of them. When you're not living right, when you're not saved, but you got a gift and you can play. So I'm selling drugs. I'm smoking a lot of weed. Like, if you got my car back then, you was going to get high just from contacting my car. And I'm just telling you the truth. See, this is stuff this the taboo stuff that we don't want to tell. And I don't have no problem telling my business because it's going to help somebody. So I was like, man, Vaughn, I got to go. He's like, Meyer, what are you doing? You're crazy. I was like, man, I'm going to Bishop Crosby Church, and I don't care what they give me. Ain't that what I said? I said, I don't care what he give me. I just know God is calling me to be there. I hadn't changed. Nothing was different about me. I played for Bishop Crosby that morning, and I shot myself in the foot because, I had to be honest with him. I said, before you say anything or give me a number, God sent me here, so if you give me $25 a week, I'm gonna drive from Dover to Philly every Sunday. And he was like, for real? And then he gave me this crazy salary. I came back and told Vaughn. Vaughn was like, what? He was like, what? I was like, Vaughn, and I told him I would come like basically for free. He was like, yo, man, that ain't never happened in our organization ever. But through that situation, because I went through a period where I wasn't getting anything, and I never charged the church for anything. Bishop, Pastor Mark, I never went to their church and was like, I'm demanding this or I'm demanding. I was like, man, look, I don't even need nothing, yo. And then a lot of times they said they was gonna pay me, I would try to get it back in the offering on the level. You know what I'm saying? Like, make it feel like, because I just didn't feel like I was worth, like, you getting $100 offering. Like, Bishop Cannon would go preach in Vienna, Maryland. I don't know if y'all know where that's at, but he was preaching in Vienna, Maryland. He was getting like $20 in hot dogs to preach. And no, that's real talk. This is real talk. We went to Jersey and he didn't even preach. The pastor laid hands on everybody on a Sunday morning. They invited him, and then they was like, well, we just gonna bring you back. And he just sitting there like, and I'm sitting there and I'm just looking at him. I was like, yo, man, let's go to McDonald's, get these fishes, and go back home, yo. Because fish sandwiches was 99 cents. Remember that? So I went to the story, I went to Philly, and my life changed. My whole life. Didn't nobody know where I was. Troy was like, how long you been here? I was like 2 years. He's like, and you ain't called? You ain't say nothing? I was like, I just been on the low. I was like, I'm engaged in everything. He was like, what? From that situation, and this is just to some pastors that have a musician that's not all the way put together, but they got a good heart. And a lot of times, the reason why I was like that is because my past situations had beat me down so bad, I didn't feel like it was a future in church. That's what I'm getting to, the flip side of it. From when you got, like they say, these pastors who promise you stuff, and you believe in a vision. You believe in what they saying. And I've been faithful since I was like 6, because I came from a church from nothing. I ain't come from a big established church. I came from a country church. Anybody can preach in my granddad's church on Sunday morning. He was giving shots to everybody. If you was a young minister and he saw like you had future, he was like, come preach. He was like, it was a training ground for people. Yeah, he was a real, that's how he was. So all I knew was to be faithful for nothing. For nothing, because it was my reasonable service. That's what it was. That's what it was. That's what they told you. They messed up that whole scripture. You supposed to sacrifice yourself. That's your reasonable service. They was like, it's your reasonable service to play. That's what they told you.
Go on and preach.
That's what they told you. I'm sorry. I don't mean to do that. But the point I'm trying to make is through Bishop Crosby's ministry, I told him who I was, and that's what I want to say to all our musicians. Be honest with the pastors. Tell them where you're deficient, especially if you trust these pastors. Tell them where you're vulnerable at, so they can help you. That's a pastor's job, to help you.
Yes, sir.
Seriously. And that's the problem. Like, that's the reason why they treat us like hoes. And we treat them like pimps, because we don't even tell them where we need help at. I told Bishop Crosby, I was like, God, I don't know, it's weird. I had a kind of relationship with God because I used to smoke weed and read the word. That's all I did. That's all I did. And I said, Bishop, this is my problem. I smoke weed. I got a problem with this. I got a problem with that. I got a problem with this. I got a problem with that. And as much as he was cutting, he was cleaning. Yeah. Like, Pastor Mark will tell you, I get so passionate about ministry sometimes now that I'm in this executive pastor role. I get so passionate where I call him and I'll be like, you probably not about to like nothing I got to say. But after I get finished, you can sit me down and I'll take it. I'm not going to leave. But this is what I got to say. Am I free to talk? And I just go off and he'll cut and he'll clean. And I'm still faithful to it. And that's another thing. We can't take nothing no more. That's it. That's absolutely it. You think because somebody trying to clean you, they wounding you. No. That's what they supposed to do. That's what they're supposed to do.
Yes. Yes, sir.
That's what they're supposed to do. We in this sissified church age.
Say it again. Say it again.
I got to say it. And I'm not talking about the sexual. No, my thing is you don't want nobody calling you a sissy, but you acting like when you call yourself a man.
Yes, sir.
I can say this because I pay bills at home. My wife right here. If I was lying, my wife is rude and disrespectful sometimes, and she'll tell you the truth. She right here. And Bishop Crosby would sit me down. I would drive to King of Prussia just to sit at his feet. I did 6 weeks of marriage counseling because it was stuff in me I didn't know, but it helped me as a musician. Some of us don't want to be faithful to nothing. We worried about money. When I stopped getting paid, that's when I bought my house. I quit Bishop Crosby's church because I said, Bishop, I can't do it. It's affecting my marriage. And he's so pro-marriage. And just let me say this, musicians, when you get married, Bishop Crosby taught me, marriage is the only holy institution that we have right now because it was before the fall of man. So that's the only institution that's still holy. So I told him, I said, Bishop, I don't want to sacrifice my marriage because I'm going through a lot of stress finding a house. He said, quit today. Wrote me a check and said, this should hold you over till you figure some stuff out. Because I'm a son to him at this point. I go to a church that's just starting, and I'm playing there. We found a house, bought the house, and we've never been late on our mortgage. Lights ain't never been cut off. Bought a brand new car in the same week. Like, because you can't buy a car when you closing. Y'all know about that. We bought a car. We both got promotions. Me and my father had a bad relationship for 27 years. See, this is the stuff that musicians go through. The reason why we can't be faithful to other men of God, because we have all these other issues. I'm testifying for a reason. So me and my father's relationship got repaired. And 2 years ago, I got an inheritance that will blow your mind, where I never have to get up and go to work another day in my life. I can sit home, do conference calls, and I'm blessed. My mortgage is paid. And I still ain't bought a new car yet. I still got that 97 Crown Victoria.
Yes, sir.
See, no, it's not that I can't get it. It's the fact that I understand business now. Bishop Crosby taught me business. See, when you sit somewhere long enough, it'll teach you business. Like something happened in the church with a church split, and he couldn't pay me. And I was like, so? I'm still driving up here because I said I was gonna come for 25s. So I can't renege on what I said. We don't keep our word. Sometimes you can make your pastor accountable to you if you do what you say you're gonna do. When you see, because sometimes our pastors aren't perfect. They have areas that they lacking in, and you can help them by doing what you say you're gonna do. As a musician, I've helped many pastors be legit by being a musician to them. They have character issues, character flaws. Because I was there and I was faithful, I helped them, move along in some areas while they were helping me move along in other areas. Let's stop making people God.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's why when a man falls, we can't even rock with him no more. We can't restore him in the spirit of meekness, considering thyself.
You got King James.
Considering yourself.
Yes, sir.
Like, what if I fall in this area? You know what I'm saying? So everything that they're saying is true, and everything that we feel is true, but we just got to get back to being humble. And like this whole forum, and I didn't plan it to be that way, but last night it was about being in God's will. Yeah. And like Troy summarized it into being obedient. And Pastor Combs has this. She wrote some stuff down, and while I was over here eating chicken, excuse me, she didn't want to say nothing. But I have to read this because it was so powerful, because this is what she got from it. The vision, right? Yeah, I know. That's what I was going to read. You want to read it? No, you read it.
Well, what I simply wrote down, and I've enjoyed myself tremendously over these 2 days, but I wrote that the vision of the pastor and the vision of the minister of music should coincide and not collide. When we think about vision, we only think about the things that we can see now, but we don't think about the things that we anticipate. And with vision comes integrity. Integrity simply means cohesion, so everything works together.
Which means both have the Spirit of Christ in them.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's the thing. When we get back, it sounds funny because I'm quoting like Spike Lee's Malcolm X. When we get back on God's side, you remember that? Yes, that's what he said. I'm so stupid. Yes, that's what he said. But seriously, when we get back on God's side, our churches can flow. Amen. I mean, flow. In all our ministry gifts. Bishop Dennis used to talk about all the time, the spirit of synergism can work in the church where everything is working together to accomplish one goal. One goal. And if there's any questions from our audience that we have to the panelists. Oh.
Can I just give something that, and you touched on it, but this is very short. One of the things that I forgot about, and we were like hitting around it and almost getting on it, but never went deeply on it, is musicians are some of the most non-business people that I've ever met in my life. And when I say non-business, I'm not talking about you commanding the dollar that you're worth. I'm talking about you knowing how to handle the dollars that come through your hand. Man, this thing is big. All right, so, oh yeah, I did. It's good too. It's one of them soft mints. All right, so here it is. I'm just saying this because one of the things that is an issue, even why it comes up on the musicians, and even if it's not the pastor's end, is because we feel like we never have enough. We're always struggling. But when you're in a place of abundance, you splurge it. You know, whether you're buying, 4 and 5 sneakers because you're trying to keep up, I'm not naming any names. I've been on the road and been on the road next to other people and see them with the fresh kicks, with everything that's going on. And it's just like, like you're changing up everything. You got different outfits. You got 2 bags when we're going to the airport, even though they're charging for bags now, because you got 1 bag for your sneakers and other for your change of wardrobe and all this. and then you come back and you're asking the artist for money to get your car out the impound. Yeah, I've seen it. I'm not making this up. This is the stuff that happens, and it's just like, yo, like your car payment is on your body. Your house payment is on your body, or the fact that you still live at your mom's is because that payment is on your body. So it's just a thing where we kind of need to understand practical business, how to be sensible with money, how to be sensible with what we have, not eating at restaurants all the time just because we got out of church and we got a taste for this. Take your butt home, look up a recipe, and put on some water, put on a pan. If you don't have pans, they sell them in your supermarket. Get those, But, like, figure something out, and figure out how to hold on to your money a little bit longer. Figure out how to use it more, how to stretch it. When you get to the places where you have plenty, don't live like it's always going to be like that. Even for road musicians, we learn there's times where it's going to be flowing, and there's times where the river is going to run dry. And you better know how to have something for that. And, I'm saying, trust God. But, have your understanding, too. Know how to balance the resources that he's giving you. Like, it's waste. We waste so much stuff. I just wanted to say that because that stewardship is the key, because that's another thing that drives what we do. We're asking, I need more money. I need this. I've seen people that was on the road with major artists, and I'm still giving them a ride home from a rehearsal that we got for a session. And I'm pulling up to one of the rougher neighborhoods in Philly and just like, yo, you work for this artist? You on national tour, you going overseas, you barely home, and I'm giving you a ride to this. I'm giving you a ride, and I'm giving you a ride to this. Give me half of what you make. Tithe to me, and let me show you what I could do with what you got. Just tithe to me. Don't even give me all that you got, and I can show you something. You know what I mean? So that's another thing that needs mentoring, too. We need to start educating each other, musician, and even pastors that understand, and pastors that have been in full-time ministry or understand owning their own business, understand different things like that. You need to start mentoring. We need to mentor the younger guys so they get an understanding of how to make this money work. Practical living.
Real quick, mine is kind of twofold. First, I want to say, for the whole pimp and hoe kind of that business, well, Pastor Mark, y'all know what church I used to belong to. And at that church, I came very young. Now, I was raised in the AME church. And so I was raised in the AME church, and I switched over. When I came to that church, I was 13 years old. And in that church, I was able to take what I knew and kind of enhance it a little bit. So I was able to, I had hymns, anthems, and all of that. And then I learned how to play shop music. I learned how to back up a preacher. And I learned how to be versatile. I learned how to do all of that. But at this church, from the time that I was 13 to the time I was 24 years old, I can count on one hand, probably with two fingers, how many times I got paid. And some of that was I wasn't treated fairly all the time. And then some of it was because of reasonable service. And I just wanted to add to that and say, because I did it with a pure heart, I honestly believe I'm blessed now. I minister music at a Baptist church over in D.C., where I never thought that I would have direct deposit at a church. Before I touch, matter of fact, I got paid on Friday. Service is tomorrow, but I got paid on Friday. Yeah. $40,000 a year, just to be at a church. And then recently, 2 weeks ago, I was offered $50,000 at an AME church in Wilmington with benefits.
Don't get knocked over the head.
We
9 years you at that church, right?
Right.
How many times did you complain?
How many times did I play? Complain. There were times where the only time where I really complained is very minimal. The only time, Right, I did. But that wasn't until I got older, right. However,
Right now, what you're walking into
it's a direct
your gift
made room for me.
has made room because you never
Absolutely.
complain. And you play for me.
Right.
You play for other people and you never complain.
Never complain.
And this is a classic example of what these other young This is a classic example of what these other musicians need to hear. Not to cut you off, you served in a church
Sure did.
and didn't get paid. Nobody knew until, later you're putting it out there, but you served and you served other ministries and you never complained. You never charged. You never said, Cannon, I'll come to you. I need $50. You just did it for the love of. Fast forward 10, 15 years, now you got the direct deposit. Yeah. But it's not going to happen overnight. And this is what this young generation has to accept. I've got to put my time in somewhere.
Exactly.
Listen to what you said. I know anthems. I know hymns. I know praise and worship. I know to back up a preacher. I know shouting music. That's 5. You can't expect to get direct
I do it in
deposit
every
and all
key.
you know is shouting music. You don't even know how to back up a preacher.
And the thing about it is, I'm humble enough to know that I ain't even on their level yet. And I'm trying to get on their level, and that's why I'm here. You know what I mean? And, you know what I mean? The fact that I'm going to make $50,000 a year means nothing. You know what I mean? I know that because of what I can do. And the thing about it is, I know that I'm being placed in that position to take them to the next level. And I can't do that if I get stuck where I am. Okay, so I wanted to say, that was my statement. My question is, because of all of that, I feel within myself that over the years, I've become very burnt out with it because the only thing, like Junior, you know, I tried the 9-to-5 thing. It just don't work for people who are gifted. It just doesn't. Like, I was at a hotel. I was working at the Microtel Inn. I've done security at the cigarette shop. Yeah. I worked at the Listen, I got fired for nothing. Yo, so listen, I was in church. I was in church all day. I went to work, and at the Microtel, if you front desk, you got to dry the clothes, you got to fold the laundry and everything. And this particular day was Labor Day, and like people was coming in like nonstop, and the laundry ain't get done, and the dude coming in and hollering at me, and you know I don't take kindly to hollering. Pray for me. I need deliverance, but what you're not gonna do, you're not gonna talk down to me like I'm the gum beneath your shoe. That's what you ain't gonna do. And so I use some colorful adjectives. Mercy. Praise God. Right. And so, listen, the 9-to-5 thing is just don't work. So where I'm at now, I don't want to say I'm stagnated, but at the same time, I feel stuck where I am musically. Like, how do I sit down and make myself better than where I am? Because, I mean, I feel like that I've advanced some, but I listened to something I played, I don't know, maybe 2-3 years ago, and I sound the exact same today. And that's not good for, you know. So it's not spiritual, it's the musicality part. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? How do I practice? You know what I mean? How do I get out of my box where I'm at?
Justin can really play. And he can play anything.
He always can play.
Always. Like
Always.
he was like 13, could play anything. So I mean, I just want to preface that I don't want you to feel like that you making about to make 50 and you ain't worth it because you worth every bit because there's some whack dudes in the AME conference, dog, and you know they whack. That's why you getting that job. So don't trip. Like you can play. Yeah, you can play. But what he's I think just to break the question down, I feel like he's saying he burnt out and he don't know how to get to that next place.
2 minutes. Statement, question. Answer to the question is learn how to fall in love with your craft again. And when I say that, I don't want to be very general. I want to say, like, start listening for different stuff. Like, do a search. I'm about to go download this Shazam that McMillan was talking about, because there's times that I am somewhere and I hear something, I'm like, what is that? And I want to know what it is, and I don't know how to find out. People are doing like internet radio, so I don't even know. But this program allows you to say, it'll hear it and say, this is this artist. This, so, I'm a little late on the draw. I'm going to get mine. But you got to do stuff to fall in love. Music is like I can say this. Music is like your wife. Even if you don't have one, it's your boo. And I'm going to just tell you this. She going to tell on you. She's going to tell how much time you spend with her. That's what she's going to do. Like, if you spend a lot of time giving her good loving, like you spending time in her face, when you get in front, you're going to be able to tell, because you're going to be able to go to that same place that y'all go to all the time. And other people will be sitting there like, man, I wish I could get in that. That's what it is like. But, if you just kind of do the same thing in your relationship and you do the same thing over and over and over, like after a while you start feeling like, like this is boring. And that's what happens like when you get in the rut of, doing that. So all I'm just saying is make sure you carve time. Let's say when you sit down and do music, you're usually preparing for service, aren't you? You're usually preparing what you got to play, what you got to learn, what you got to teach. If you're teaching anything, you need to figure out a way to carve out time to listen to and to actually work with stuff that has nothing to do with Sunday morning. Because that's the stuff that's kind of nuanced. That is the first thing I wanted to tell you. The second thing is I love what you said. I grew up in an environment, and to this day, people don't know that I've never put a price tag on anything that I've ever done ministry. From traveling to getting in a plane, I've never given anybody a figure for anything that's ministry. And I know that some people will sit in their minds right now, I'm talking, and say, you retarded. But I can tell you, I went from making nothing at my church to making $25 a week at my church, and still faithful, still pushing, because I loved what I was doing. And I remember that sowing period. And what people don't realize is you don't play here and then reap a payment here. When you sow seeds, you reap trees. You reap vineyards. Like you sowing and you're like, what's going on? I got abused. But you don't realize you learn this in this environment, and then somebody else is willing to pay you top dollar in that environment for what you learned in your sowing season, where you felt like this person stepped on you and all that. So I agree with you in that, and I experienced that, and I'm going to tell you, God takes care of me. When I tell you he takes care of me, he takes care of me, or whatever. And I'm telling you, I never had a number. Even in preaching, I'm young to this. I'm really young to this. I'm different. I grew up with stuff like Bishop Cannon, but even with this posture, I'm young to it. I don't know if I agree with preachers. I don't care how notarized you are or how famous you are, how many people are after you. I don't know if I agree with you saying, I need 5, or I need to run the offering and I take half of, or let me run my, I feel like that's a whole nother situation. I just want to do what God told me to do. I don't want to be in a filthy lucre, and I just want to be excited about what he wants me to do and let him take care of this stuff. No man at wars entangles himself with the things of this world. And it says, take no thought for your life, what you should eat, what you should drink. God supplies all of it. But that's it.
Oh, I just want to say this. I'm not a musician. I don't play. I play the drums, but I'm not a musician in the sense of how you're a musician. But I do hear stuff. I know what it's supposed to sound like. You know that by being around me. So there's a lot of things that go in with that. But Levites, just like you said, priests and musicians. So a lot of things that you would go through as a musician, priests go through as well. And I went through a situation where I got burnt out from ministry. busy being busy, just doing everything everybody asking you to do, not saying no, just running all around and being tired. Me and Meyer went a couple weeks. I went and did ministry opportunities. And when I went, I preached for 15 minutes. And I said, I'm going to preach for 15 minutes because I was tired. So I give them a little introduction, a little foundation, and I hooped the rest of it because I was burnt out. They didn't know any different of what it was, so they just think, oh, he's a short preacher. He gets right to the point. But I did it for like 2 weeks, and Meyer let me go for like 2 weeks. And one day he said to me, oh, riding in the car. I said, yeah. He said, what's wrong with you? And I was like, what's wrong with me? He was like, that's not you. Something's wrong. And I'm telling you this for 2 reasons. The other reason is if somebody's with you as a musician who knows you, the same way you want them to that pastor to cover you, as a musician, you should cover them. Wow. And he said, something's wrong. So he started telling me what he heard for the last 2 weeks. And you got to switch it up. You got to figure this out. Because even though you preach for 15 minutes, you're still killing yourself because you're not putting out what you're supposed to put out. And when you're not on top of your game, you do more work than necessary. Wow. So what I had to do was I had to go back and had to realize why I do what I do. But what I didn't know was God was trying to put me on another level. So he had to show me a dilemma first before he could put me on the level I needed to be on. Because if I thought I was all right where I was, when he took me to the next level, I wouldn't been prepared. So if God is shifting you to another place, you being burnt out is not a bad thing. It's allowing you to recognize that where you are now ain't good enough for where you're going. So you got to put yourself in position to be poured into again. Everyone who operates under the anointing, everybody who operates in the gifting, there has to be a repouring inside of them. They have to be filled up. You cannot do next level ministry with old oil. You have to have new oil so that you can go to the next level.
Yeah, that's good. And just from you being here today and you saying, and I ain't on your level of playing, but just to help you, I'm really good at, figuring stuff out. This stuff that Junior doing, that's going to spark interest in you again. Because sometimes you get to a place just real talk, because you about to start doing something different. That right there is a whole different animal. It's like going back learning what a C major is, what a C minor is. That's what it's going to be like. And you'll fall in love with that. And then once you're playing and your programming start coming together, then you'll start loving that. It got to the point where, Junior was telling me to get all this stuff, and I was getting it, whatnot. And then it got to the point where it's like, man, I'm tired of playing. I got tired of playing, started giving away stuff, crazy stuff. I just gave them stuff. They just, you don't come over, so, it's whatever. They came through. They came through and hollered at me. See? So. Yo, well, it was Biggie that time. Biggie came through. So, and now it's like, now I'm being transitioned into this other mode of ministry. It's like I'm different. Like, I'm different. I don't want to play no more. I'm praying that another musician come, and I'm still playing every Sunday. And I got a text, because I got to know what the offering is, and I feel like I'm being spread thin. But the Lord had to reassure me. You got to keep on working. You got to keep on striving. You're not doing it for yourself. It's all for God. Last night I felt like I was renewed last night. Amen. I really did, because God let me know that nothing you do is in vain. Nothing you do is in vain. It's all for God. It's like those old songs, like "Put Your Time In, Payday Coming After a While."
See, I was testing, man. Listen, my church had lead guitars. It was a quartet church. It was crazy. Lee Miller was at my church all the time. He lived right down the street, literally. I used to steal his bikes and stuff, so like quartet was everything. But, those kind of songs are coming back to me now, and they're so true. And God is like you said, going back to the old ways and just learn how to pray again and learn how to fast, not doing a diet, but doing a real fast. Like Daniel is a diet. I'm sorry, that's not a fast. That was a diet. I'm from Church of God in Christ. Tuesday and Fridays, you ain't eat nothing. And my granddad used to snap if I did eat lunch. You know what I'm saying? You better not eat till 6. You know what I'm saying? So, but what I'm saying is, it's like, like he said, come back to your first love. And then sometimes the love of doing something else will spark interest to that other side, and then you can join those things and marry them together, and it'll put you where you need to be so you can do your proper assignment.
Yo, I posted something like probably a couple months ago, man. When you actually love what you do, you'll never have to try to give 100%. You'll always exceed that 100%. You'll always get, when you love it, that drive will always be there.
Another thing, the evolution of what we do, we evolve into different things, and I just want to put this out there. The reason why I picked the people that I picked, like Troy, is because most of us know Troy as just being, Troy's the dopest organist I've ever heard in my life. That's how we know him. But we don't get to see him on these kind of platforms where how many of y'all knew that Troy could walk that Bible like that, though? And exegete text like that? I mean, I knew it. I'm just saying, down this way, a lot of us don't know that because we've never had a conversation outside of music with him. And if you have a musical conversation long enough with him, it will transfer into that, because him and BJ used to blaze me. They was like, Emire, how much you practice? I was like, right now I'm like 4 hours a day. BJ was like, you work? I was like, nah. He was like, it really should be 8, but I'm gonna tell you this. How much you read the Bible? I was like, maybe like 30 minutes a day. He was like, you're whack. Yo, BJ's no filter. He's like, you're whack, yo. He's like, for real though, when you start reading the word, the amount of time that you practice, that's when you know God moving. But when you start loving the word more than you practice, that's when you know you got it. And it never dawned on me until one day he was going to see his brother at Syracuse, see Steve, and he stopped driving and he pulled his Bible out on a 7-hour trip and just started reading for like 4 hours. He just read his Bible for 4 hours on the way to Syracuse. And I never forgot that. And that's the evolution of who we are. And that's how we get back to God, because we're killing our flesh. And our flesh never can be sanctified. So what happens is we got to make sure that we killing stuff so we can be pure when we play our instruments, so we can be pure vessels and do the assignments that we need to do outside of music.
You know how also you get burnt out? There's another symptom how you get burnt out. I think you touched on it today or yesterday. I find myself doing it at times, man. You know how you got a whole bunch of gigs that week or whatever, and all you're doing is just learning songs? That's all you're doing is learning the songs to play it. But you don't get time to actually practice. You just learn the song. And that's another way. Like, if you do that for a while, you'll get burnt out, because all you're doing is learning the song. And you'll never get the nuances like he was talking about, you know what I mean? You never actually practice the song. You know what I mean? And that's another way to get burnt out.
Are there any other questions? Oh, right here.
Not learn the words of the songs. You don't even know. You know what I mean? You get burnt out by just, you know what I mean? Yeah.
You're working too hard.
Yeah.
Can
That's how I get.
you touch on the transition from being a musician, like for you, that most of us that have now embraced ministry, but the difficulty of trying not to let music lack for you embracing ministry, your calling. Like most musicians, if you're called, because your comfort zone, like me, for drums or singing, it was always my comfort zone. That's where I flocked to, because it was easy to hide. You sit behind the set and everything was fine because that's what you know best.
Yeah.
So now having to be drawn out of sitting behind the set and now having to embrace ministry and other avenues and other forces, question I guess I'm having is how do you balance, or how do you come to grips with, okay, I have to not so much as let it go,
Got you.
but how can I embrace this wholeheartedly without feeling like I've let it go?
Understood. The thing that I had to learn was time management, number one. Time management, we don't realize that we waste more time than we really have. And you feel like, there's more tasks than hours to fulfill the task. But the truth is, if you do an inventory of what you do over a day's time, you'll actually figure out where you waste time at. So management says, I'm going to commit myself to a regiment. Let's say because I am a full-time musician, where everybody else is home, instead of staying up all night on the internet or staying up all night watching movies or talking on the phone, I'm actually going to go to bed. So I can actually get up when everybody else gets up. And now almost think of my day as an 8-hour day. Take a lunch break, like put myself on a regiment. If you're doing ministry full time, and even if you're transitioning from music, whether you're doing one or the other or both, you gotta compartmentalize your time and spread it well, and just know that it's not on your side. So basically, even for me right now, the way my day works, I get up with my family, get them ready, get my boys ready, make sure everything is straight, help out with making lunch, do whatever. They get out the house. First thing that I do now, and I used to try to figure out doing the technical first, but God's led me to do devotional first. Not preparing to preach, not preparing to study for something like this. Straight up devotional. And it's not about the quantity of time more than it's about the quality. But you'll find if you give God a designated time and say, I'm going to meet you at this place, he's going to do some things with you that doesn't take long. The second thing is to compartmentalize. If you're transitioning two things, which thing am I stronger at? I've been doing music for a while. Certain things are almost second nature. Does that mean that I can't grow in that? Like I've topped it on? No. But it means that I can put less time towards it. The reason I can put less time towards it is because I'm not struggling like I was when I first started. It doesn't take me a week to learn a song. I could actually really study a song and break it down in 30 to 40 minutes if it's intricate, or an hour, whatever it takes me. So I'll devote less time, but really focused time. Not practicing, and it's my practice time, and then such and such knows I'm home, so they call me. That used to be another issue that I had. Your phone is running off the hook, not for people that need things, but people that just know that you're free in a day. So they just want to kick it with you. What's going on, blah, blah, that's what happened last night. Guess what such and such did, Such and such came to the church with this high dress, and you're like, you need to cut stuff off almost as if you're working. You got to treat your time as if it's that value. I can't talk to you right now. I'll talk to you like after 5, after 6, or whatever, and we can hook up. Compartmentalize that free time. The second thing is you give the time that you shave, because you can get more things accomplished with the thing that you're used to in less time. Commit that extra time to the thing that's new to you. So if I broke up my day, even with studying, I spent time, and then I also learned to be fluid. If there was something that required more of me and I could stand to actually take something off of the music end, then I took it away, and I prayed to God, help me pull this together. Some things you can't fix. They got to be managed. You can't fix everything. Some things you just got to be able to manage. But that's what helped me with transitioning that.
We thank God for the panel. Get the panel in hand. And give yourselves a hand. This has been, how many of you feel stretched? Yeah, I feel stretched. I feel stretched, and I feel like I need to stretch. It's been a long day, and these people have poured out to us, and I'm so excited. And, I just pray that we'll be able to do this again. Everything wasn't as we wanted it to be, but, and I'm not even gonna lie, do that like lie that every pastor says. The people that were here, God had everybody that was here that needed to be here. I feel like, no, there's other people that needed to be here. I mean, I'm sorry. I ain't going to say it's a lie, but that's just how I feel. And I really thank you all for coming from Philadelphia and the people who traveled. Thank you so much. Thank you for everybody who made this weekend a success. I want to give honor to Pastor Cannon and Lady Cannon. Thank you so much. Open up your ministry. Having the will to want to, get the people here to help us and help musicians. Pastor Mark, thank you. Junior Lee, thank you. Troy Chambers, thank you. Will McMillan, thank you. Thank all of y'all. Nina, thank you. Love you. Sebastian Wheat, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Everybody who's been here to donate their time and that registered, and we wanted to give as much as you paid, and I feel like y'all got a lot. Yeah. So I have a request. If some brothers could help put this church back together. So we got some tables that we need to put in Bishop Cannon's truck because he has to take tables back. All of us, we can just work together, knock this out real quick.